director of Keeping Rosy, Mr. Jim Reeves. Steve Reeves. Jim Reeves was a country and western star where I grew up. Steve, have a seat, please.
I haven't got my guitar.
I haven't got your guitar, good. So can you tell us briefly when you had this idea?
I'd say about 4 years ago. Something actually happened when I was in my car with my kids, and I was driving home and they wanted a drink. They were only small, and they said, "Come here, a drink, come here, a drink." So I pulled over, jumped out the car, ran across the road, and nearly got killed by a sort of cement lorry. And my wife was away at the time, so I was that close to being killed. And I just sort of put this sort of idea in my head: what would happen to my kids if I had been sort of scraped off the road by the ambulance and taken to the morgue? My kids were sort of tiny; they would have been just left in the car. It sort of set that sort of thought in my mind: what would happen if some kids were sort of left in the car, which kind of started it off. And then I met Mike, the writer, and we sort of worked together on it and turned it into the script.
Yeah, so then you met the producer, maybe?
We made a short film based on a part of this film, and we sent that to Richard, the producer.
So should we ask the producer to join us, maybe?
Yeah, of course.
Producer Richard Holmes. I got that name right. So, Richard, you had to raise a lot of money then. Was that difficult?
It wasn't a lot of money. I made a couple of films previously with my producing partner Isabel, and she's financing whiz, and she sourced the money. So actually, it was disgustingly easy this time. Although the budget was very modest. We had Roger Pratt shooting it, and we had Stephen Warbeck scoring it, Oscar nominated and Oscar winning DOP and composer, and so it was very, very tight to do what we had to do, but also very contained.
And Steve, at what point did you start casting?
Quite well. When Richard said, "Guys, you've got the money," and then we sort of we started looking through the lineups. So it wasn't. Richard has this thing. He says you've got to set a date in stone when you're going to start shooting, and we did. And so then we had to just get on with it. It was a good discipline actually, because I think these things could probably slide if you're not careful. So
sure.
Richard knows more than me about that.
The casting process is a brutal one. You're inevitably it is a sort of a process of what can we. We had about £3 under £1 million to spend, so we were just under the equity low budget minimum rate. So it is an extremely modest fee for the actors. So the actors that you're looking to get are people that are committed to the script, that really see something in the script, and especially obviously in their role, and will therefore commit to what is a tough schedule and for a very modest fee, because they see it as something that they really want to do. So you get, what's great about that system is you get people who really want to be there rather than people that doing it for the money.
Even though you're just topping up their Oyster card, basically.
More than that. I mean, it's a good system. Actually, the budget system is very fair. If the film makes money, then we all make money.
Cool. And I understand some of the cast are here. I saw earlier.
Yes, Lake's here.
Yeah, we've got Blake, who's coming in now, and we're very lucky to have got.
Hi guys.
So Blake, what attracted you? Behind you. What attracted you to this project, this low-budget project?
Well, I mean, if I'm brutally honest, the main thing for me was it gave me an opportunity to do something I've never done before, really, and definitely not been seen doing before. I've been at drama school for about 7 years, and I mainly play comedic idiots, which is fun. But this was a nice change, something different. And I was actually out in LA doing, I don't know if you know what pilot season is, but you're basically constantly given script after script after script. And because of my background, it was mainly really terrible sitcoms. And this came through, and I was like, oh, well, I mean, this is a brilliant piece, but are you sure they haven't made a mistake? Do they not think I'm like Ray Winston from 30 years ago, or Neil Maskell or someone like that? And No, my agent assured me that no, it was addressed to me, and yeah, and so I read it. I genuinely couldn't put it down. It was, you know, I was enthralled by the whole thing and loved it.
You're just changing the blacks there. Right, and I'm going to ask Steve the same question, but what was it like working with Steve?
You're going to ask Steve what it's like working with Steve.
I'm going to ask him the same, I'm asking you.
No, it was great. Steve's brilliant. I mean, what it kind of felt like for me a lot of the time, I don't know if you were going to this, but it almost felt like a play at times, because, you know, there was moments, especially obviously when we're in the flat and it all feels very kind of, you know, like you kind of trapped in there a little bit. The camera would just be on like a wide, and you'd just be told, you know, just do it. And if there's anything goes wrong, just keep going, just do it. And it felt like you were kind of rehearsing for a play or performing a play or something, and that really kind of gave it a real energy and made it feel much more natural, because you kind of, you know, sometimes when you're breaking down scenes and getting into the real details of it, you end up just going over the same line so often that it becomes unnatural, and you start thinking, oh, I must get this across in this one line, and it's not right. Whereas when you're just allowed to play with it and do these really long takes, you find something in there that's sometimes, I think, quite special, because it really does come from you listening and reacting off of what everyone's saying. It sounds obvious, I suppose, but that to me it was brilliant to work that way.
And Steve, what's your advice to anyone here who wants to work with actors, or actors who want to work with you? So let me ask you again. So you just described this long take.
Yeah.
From his point of view, how was it from your point of view looking at that? What were your...
I mean, Blake's a really committed actor. He was a really proper actor.
Right.
And it was easy to work with Blake. Easy to work with Maxine as well, and Christine. I was so glad that I fought really hard to get the people I wanted to sort of appear in the film, and it really paid off, because you've got no money, you've got no time, you're in such a rush to get things shot, and when you know you can just rely on that element, you don't have to worry about that part, which is the biggest part of all. And you know, it was. I think as a director, that's the best thing if you've got great actors. I'm sure if I ever get a big film, it'll be different, because you'll have, you know, the sort of actors that are doing it maybe for the money or for different reasons, and then it will be dealing with lots of egos. But I was very lucky not to have those egos. Half a mission, obviously.
Well, two quick questions, and we'll get questions from you. But Richard, did you ever have to say, hurry up, hurry up?
No.
Yes. What we had, I always say that on a low-budget film, basically low-budget films are contained, few characters, character-driven, dialogue-heavy, very little effects, all those things. But they all break one rule, and the rule we broke, and hello, Dad, we had two babies, and they were 11 months old, and they were babies. What I'm about to say is obviously completely, but it's like casting a wild animal. You can't say, by the way, would you like to go there and take that? They don't do that. They just are what they are. And I have to say, babies were absolutely extraordinary, because we shot for 5 weeks. They basically were unhappy for 2 weeks when they had to be unhappy. They were ill for a week when they had to be ill. And they were delightful for 2 weeks when they had to be delightful.
Wow.
And you end up going, because believe me, when they're unhappy, I mean, everyone who's got kids, something about a crying baby, which just drives you completely insane, and it's very uncomfortable, because you just want to cure the baby from crying, you want to comfort the baby, but it's very effective on camera. Parents are always, under the law, parents are always literally 2 seconds away, but we needed to generate that feeling of discomfort that she has and that we have as an audience, and it's very stressful for the director. But then they do something like, look at Maxine and go to sleep, and you just think, God, that's just brilliant. Makes the whole
Good acting.
Marvellous acting.
So my last question to you again, Steve, is two things that stand out for me in the film are, number one, the cinematography, and secondly, the music and the sound score. How do those things happen?
I mean, they both those things were one was Steve Morbeck and one was Roger Pratt, were both fantastically accomplished sort of composers and DOP, and Roger wanted to shoot on 35mm, which was quite a challenge because it's, you know, obviously nowadays everything's digital, and particularly when you're shooting with babies, it'd be much easier to have done it digitally. But he insisted on that because he said it would make the film just have a more of a filmic film. It's quite a small idea, and I think what he did was he added that sort of filmic layer to it by making us go 35mm, and I think that was a fantastic thing. And we had because you're working with people of that level, you also get a really great crew as well, because they want to work with those people. So that also made my job a lot easier. And Stephen was just, well, he was just fantastic. I mean, it was you know, we went to Abbey Road and we had a whole orchestra and stuff. And for me, that was one of the nicest parts of the whole filmmaking process, to be there watching, you know, that.
Did you walk across the pedestrian crossing?
Did all that. We sat on the same seat where the Beatles were and everything. It's fantastic. I mean, really exciting, great stuff to do. Yeah.
Cool. Well, does anyone here have a question for this amazing team? Yes.
Just a quick question, Blake. How did you approach the role? I thought that when your character came into it, there was kind of like an explosion. For the first act and a half, it was kind of like this very, very gritty, very kind of thriller-esque, and very kind of, you weren't sure if you could empathise with Maxine's character. You weren't, which is fantastic screenwriting. But it's kind of you really, when your role came in, there was kind of quite an explosion that came across. How did you approach when you came in script?
I think what the specifics of what you're talking about, I couldn't take credit for it at all. I think that's Mike and Steve with the writing. You know, they've set up the way the film is, and then when Roger comes into it, it does it. The pace it turns into almost something a little bit different, and yeah, that's just brilliant writing, and that's one of the reasons I took it in the first place, because that was on the page. In terms of approaching the role, I think me and Steve and I had a conversation about the fact that, you know, we didn't want to make it just like a kind of London gangster cockney type thing. You know, we wanted him to be a little bit of a chancer, as it were, and you know, like have hopefully a bit more realism because of that. You know, he's someone that's seen an opportunity and is a bit down on his luck, probably hasn't had the best life, and has seen an opportunity to get some money out of someone rich, really, and then obviously the slightly darker side of what he would do with Rosy and all of that comes out much later. But yeah, I think that's kind of. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah, no, that's
Good answer. Good answer. Anyone else? Yes, over here.
Both as actor and the director, working on the combat aspects that came at the end of the film, I thought it was incredibly effective. The gasps that were elicited from the audience in those last few moments. What was the process like, getting that sort of gritty feel?
Well, from my point of view, it's just a lot of fun. I love it. And I'll tell you what, Maxine's phenomenal. I mean, not only is she just brilliant in the film, full stop, but at those moments, she's really there trying to keep the energy up. Like before you're running in front of the camera out onto the balcony and stuff, we're kind of like shoving each other and like just trying to keep the energy, and that was just so much fun. So she was fantastic with that, and just fantastic to work with, and you know, everything felt obviously really safe and secure, but like it felt real. It didn't feel like there was no kung fu involved. It felt gritty and dirty, and I assume that's what you were going for. But I mean, the technicalities of it, I don't know if you.
Well, I mean, obviously the balcony thing was body doubles, and they were stunt people. But the actual fight scene was incredible, because we were talking about putting a hairpiece on Maxine, so Blake sort of pull her hair and stuff, but we didn't have the money to do that. But when we were actually shooting, they just sort of went for it, didn't you? I mean, you really, they never.
Yank that baby clean off. Clean off. She is bald in Hamlet.
It was pretty intense, and we were actually quite worried about the people in the sort of flat below on the location, because it sounded like someone was being sort of brutally having the kettle kicked out of them. And it was quite, but both of them really seriously got into it, and it was quite an intimidating thing to watch, wasn't it? It was pretty good, and I just had to film it. They made it easy for me.
Cool. Anybody else? Yes, in the front here.
Have you sold it?
Have we?
Have you sold the pictures?
Yes, we have. We've signed it with a sales agent called Parkton Pictures, and we're coming out through Picture House on a small cinema release, and then through Metrodome on the other rights, and then it's on BBC in 2016.
I didn't realize it.
Anything else?
Just another
Yeah, go on.
question. Steve, Richard, how did you actually construct the screenplay in terms of, was there a lot of description at the beginning? Because there's a lot of brilliant acting from Maxine and lots of reaction shots. And was the screenplay quite descriptive and was there a lot for her to play off, or was that her improvising?
No, I think the character was sort of created, and we had a sort of, Mike and I had a sort of, I don't know, had our sort of character arcs all worked out. Because we've written the script before together, and we just kind of sat down and thought, let's write a script, and sort of randomly sort of came up with this script that we still are struggling to sell. But so with this one, we thought we're going to be very, very sort of stick to the rules, you know, we've read all the screenwriting books and make sure it had the proper points in all the right places and stuff. And I suppose, yeah, it was quite tightly written, and we very sort of, we liked the idea there was hardly any dialogue at the start. And that was actually the hardest thing for Maxine, because she, you know, there's so much, she said, if I have to walk down another bloody corridor, so many shots of her walking up and down corridors, pressing lift buttons, and she just, it's so boring, you know. But then she gets, when Blake arrives, there's obviously, and Christine, there's the dialogue and the performance stuff, but that stuff, that was the one thing she found not much fun. And actually I found it quite boring, so I actually kept saying, we really got to do this another corridor, you know, there's so many shots of her walking up and down and getting in lifts, but it was all part of the story, and we had to have every single one. Believe me, we tried to take some out, but it all works. Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes, here.
Firstly, I loved the film.
Thank you.
Then also, I was thinking, obviously it's all filmed in London. What sort of issues did you have with locations, or if you had any issues? Because you were shooting on the DLR and like some of Bishopsgate and Canary Wharf and stuff. I mean, they're a bit difficult to film in. I don't know if you ran into that at all.
I mean, the hardest thing was the apartment to find, and I nearly drove the location guy crazy trying to find the location that we could. I wanted to paint all the walls a sort of grey, because a lot of them were sort of painted magnolia, you know, sort of, and the skin tones would be horrible. And also we needed somewhere we could use for a long time, you know, and because we were shooting 35mm, we had to use quite a lot of lights, so it was really hot up there, and it was quite a challenging place to shoot. If we had more money, if it's a like, big American film, you would just straight away gone to a studio and created the apartment. But the DLR, I mean, I shoot commercials sometimes, and they're one of the few things you can shoot on the DLR. You know, as long as you pay them and you tell them what you're doing, you do all the health and safety, you can shoot on there. So yeah, that was pretty straightforward, really, wasn't it?
How many days did you shoot?
It was 6 days, so 24 days.
24 days.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else? Yes, in the middle, yeah.
You said that you had the finance in place before the cast. Often casts dictate how much money you can get. So you had all the finance. Was that purely based off the script, or?
It was based off the fact that I made 2 films before that with a team of people that stuck with it, basically. I don't sound cryptic about it, but I said one of the films cost 1.25, one cost 1.5, and I said, I think, you know, if we shoot it in this particular way, we can make this for £1 million and get top flight HODs and top flight actors, but we're not going to, you know, if we hang out for a name which is going to drive it, it will do 2 things. One is it'll over topple the production. We'll have a thing in there that will be bigger than the film, which is never good, frankly. And secondly, we'll never get a start date, because those people will always bluntly jerk us about. You know, the worst thing sometimes in a low budget film you can hear is, you know, Kate loves my film. If Kate loves your film, and then Kate's got another film to do before she does your film, and then she's got another film, and then actually Kate gets pregnant, and you know, you can get old waiting for Kate to do your film. So my rule is you just have to say, Steve says, you set a date and you cast actors. I'm prayseeing, but that's basically the truth.
Cool. Anyone else?
Was Maxine Peake your first choice?
Yes, but no, but. She was actually, interestingly, the casting director. The Hubbards cast it, Ros and John Hubbard, and Ros John actually has this list where he goes, you know, impossible, highly unlikely, and then gettable. And he goes, please don't do that list on the impossible, and of course you do that whole list, and please don't try the, you know, ungettable. And, you know, but what they kept saying is that, you know, Maxine Peake will absolutely nail this. And, you know, but, you know, it's money, it is money, you know, people want assurances that are sort of over, you know, do not relate to the budget that you have, but you kind of work through them. And again, what we did was just very strictly said, okay, you've got a week, and then you've got a week, and we didn't go to the wall waiting for someone who was never going to say yes.
Time for a couple more. Anyone? Yes.
Did you have any other alternate endings that you could sort of explain it?
Yeah, well, right from the start, I got sort of made the decision that she had to sort of die, I thought, because she killed someone. And that was a really early decision. And people did say, like my agent said, well, can't you just reach across, get the champagne bottle, knock him over the head and push him over the balcony and go in and look after the kid? And well, she's killed her cleaner. So it's not very nice. And I just kind of felt, so I thought that it felt to me like the right ending. But that was the ending originally. She just went over. But that was so down that then we put this new bit in where the baby, obviously, the little girl says, that's my sister Rosy, and then you think the baby's going to be okay, because obviously Christine's looking after it. So that was the additional ending that sort of added on. And I think that works quite well. I mean, some films do have endings that I sort of deliberately try and be very up. I think that's just about sort of enigmatic enough to get away with it, I think. So, yeah.
Cool. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I thought the film was fantastic, so thank you. And Blake scared the shit out of me.
I'll do my best.
I was just wondering, you were talking earlier about when you actually had the idea of making the film. How long was it between sort of writing the script and then actually getting the film produced?
Well, it was a long time. I mean, as I said, it was my kids, you know, they're in car seats, and that's my daughter then. So, where's my case, really?
That was good. Anyone else? I have a question for you, Richard.
My question to you, Richard, and any of you is, and like you could probably weigh in too, how can a group of 100 plus people like this who's just seen your film, how can they help the movie get out there more? Any ideas that you like?
That's a very good question. I think, you know, the world of film distribution and that dreaded term, the long tail, is changing. And, you know, when I watch the film now, I watch the audience, I really do, and I, you know, came in at the end, because when Blake goes over, it's just the most astonishing reaction. And what you hope is that what will happen, I think, sincerely over time, is people, and you should really watch that film, it's actually really, really powerful. I mean, I made a film a while back called Eden Lake, which, you know, it was released in cinemas, but didn't do, frankly, much business. But people still come up to me going, God, I watched that film last night, it really, really terrified me. And, you know, so and that's what the only thing you can hope for, is that the film has legs.
So are you asking people here to tweet and Facebook message?
Yes, and to tell, you know, the old-fashioned way, just tell your friends. Tell your friends to watch it, because it's very, very satisfying.
Yeah, and that really does work, by the way. That really does work.
What's the Twitter handle?
It's Keeping Rosy.
Okay.
It's quite an unusual title. I don't know why.
So Blake, if you see a Keeping Rosy hashtag on your Twitter, will you retweet it for?
Absolutely, yes. I had to delete Twitter from my phone because I spent too much time on it and I kind of wasted hours. So
and
I will retweet you, but it might take me a few days because I was just a bit obsessed with it. For a while.
I see your thumb muscle is quite well developed.
Yeah. We were doing some like thumb curls earlier and stuff. Pretty immense.
Cool. Well, Richard and Steve and Blake, I hope you join me and everyone here in wishing you all the best for not only this film, but each of your individual careers. And I, for one, was greatly honored that you chose Raindance to come. So thank you very much.
And the babies.
And the babies,
Yes.
yes.
Well done, babies.